Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We're so excited to have our next guest joining us here. He is a coach worldwide. We're talking about David Alison. He's here from Scotland joining us today. And the name of his company, davidallison.com. It's DAVIDALISON.com. We're going to talk all about his coaching that he does, his group therapy, individual counseling, team therapy, you name it, he does it. So please say hello to our friend David. How are you?
I am very well. It's a frosty, snowy afternoon here in Scotland.
I was going to ask, how cold is it there?
It's 9 below zero today.
Wow. And we're in New York, and feels like it's about 30 degrees. So guess what? You win. Must be very, very cold. But I'm glad you're indoors today.
So it's about below zero anyway.
Wow.
I went out to work at lunchtime. It was beautiful.
Wow. Well, so nice to meet you. Would you mind telling us? I know you're an intuitive coach. You're a spiritual partner for high-performing business owners. There's a lot to you. So I'll have you, if you don't mind, introduce yourself to our listeners to start.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jill. So I'm kind of an evolving man. I'm in the latter third of my life. I'm 61 years old. I'm a dad and a granddad. I've been in the coaching space 5 years. 3 of those years I had the pleasure to work for Tony Robbins, which was an amazing experience. Now for the last 2 years my coaching is just in a different space. I'm a trained hypnotherapist. I'm also NLP trained, and I'm also in some of the spiritual modalities, Reiki and energy, just for some, and I'm always exploring new things to bring to my practice. So when I work with clients, it's a fusion of everything. When I say it's an intuitive process, it is. I just connect to whatever I believe is my higher power. I know some people call it God, higher power, universe, whatever. I connect and we go. And that's how I work. I mean, with some clients, I spend all day with them, particularly my clients here in Scotland. We'll go for a hike in the forest or the mountains.
I know your pictures on social media look amazing. By the way, you are on social media, we should point out, right? Facebook, also on Instagram.
Yeah.
Under David Alison Coaching. Okay, just want to point that out.
My website is davidgallison.com.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for that correction.
There's another David Allison in America, believe it or not.
An imposter. No. We want the real David Allison.
So my coaching has evolved over the last 5 years, and I've done thousands of sessions now, well over 4,000. And now it's almost like having a shower in the morning or driving my car. It's just a very intuitive process.
Automatic, and it just comes. It's innate. It's in you, within you.
And the beautiful thing is, I remember when I was a beginner coach, and somebody would ask me a question, and my mind would already be thinking about what I was going to ask them next. So, and the skill I've got and developed over the years is I'm just fully present with what's going on. I don't think about what's coming up. And a session, I just had a session with one of my clients in Portugal, and we ended up just getting into a visualization exercise about what the next level for him looks like in all of his life next year. So, and I didn't know that was going to happen when we started the session, and neither did he. He said, "Oh, everything's great, wonderful. I'm in love, business. We're just launching a new thing. It's exciting." And by the end of it, we've already created the next level him. So that's kind of the, I like to call it magic. That's the kind of the magic that happens when you're really intuitive and you're in flow.
Amazing. So you're also you practice NLP, hypnotherapy, energy healing. There's a lot to what you do, but I know you believe in these the 3 elements to quality of life, which we're going to get to in a second. But I want to find out more about you. Tell me, I know you're from Scotland. I know you're a coach. We want to find out about you a little further. What brought you into this field? And I know you mentioned you're a dad, you have grandkids, can't believe it. Tell me a little bit about yourself to start, how you got into this field and industry to start helping people.
So like I said, I'm 61. So my whole life, until 5 years ago, I was in the corporate world. I was a supply chain guy. I basically moved things around from where it got made until the end consumer. And I did that in the food industry for nearly 20 years. Then I worked in IT, chemicals, and I left school with no qualifications. So when I got into my late 30s, early 40s, it was really difficult to get to the next level in management.
Yeah.
And one of my employers sponsored me to do a master's degree.
And
And I came out in the top third in the class, which I felt pretty proud about because I left school with no real qualifications. And my first boss said I would never make anything of my life.
wow.
So I went on a whole journey. I think my first job, I was pushing the carts from the car park. And my last job, I was an operations director for a Fortune 500 company here in Europe. 5
Yeah.
divisions, 800 people, 8
Wow.
countries, managed a budget of $100 million. But I wasn't satisfied. I was heading for burnout. I was stressed. I was anxious. I was drinking too much. I'd been divorced twice. And I blamed Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me his movie, I'm Not Your Guru. I think it was back in 2016. And I'd already been going, there's got to be more to life than this. And then I watched this movie, and that was the catalyst for me changing. I'd already started at coach school. And by the end of 2017, I'd been fired from a corporate job and become a full-time coach. And by the end of that year, after having worked 3 months as a coach, I got a job as a coach for Tony Robbins. And I worked with his clients for 3 years as well as my own.
Wow.
So
Impressive.
it was, so to answer your question quickly, I was just disillusioned with life. I was heading for burnout. And I always had a thing throughout my whole life that I was here for a higher purpose.
Yeah. And clearly you are. Now you're helping so many. And we're going to talk today about what you do. You wanted to talk specifically about these 3 elements of or 2, the quality of life. Could you share and elaborate on that with us? What are they? I'm interested. I'm a mom of 2. They're young. They're 5 and 7, but learning now as we get older, what you mentioned with career choices. It's
I've been on the show a couple of times now. And what I talked about was,
I apologize. I didn't know. I thought it was your first
yeah,
time.
it's not my first time, Joe.
Okay, good. So you tell me what you want to talk about. That's how we roll.
It's
Go
my
for
first
it.
time with you. So
Got it. Okay.
I want to share that. So the first week we talked about the 3 things that shape your life.
Okay.
So your beliefs, the emotions you live in, and your habits.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether you're a guy on the street or you're a billionaire. How these 3 things show up in your life every day will affect the quality of your life.
Yeah.
What I talked about last week were the 3 C's of life: choices, chances, and change. And most people want change. Not everybody, but most people want change, but they're afraid. And the thing is, everybody wants things to stay the same. And what I want to talk about today is our human needs. But we want an element of certainty in our life. But the only thing that's certain in life is change. Look how much the world has changed in the last 3 years. Like 4 years ago, we would never imagine that we would go through what we went through the last 3 years. And nobody was prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So the only certainty in life is change. So what I help my clients do is help them manage the change of life. Whether it's a career change, a relationship change, or my client this afternoon is like, okay, I've got to this point in my life. And he was one of my success stories, but now he's looking at life in a completely different game. So today is just like, the thing I wanted to share with your audience today was let's talk about human needs. What are our needs as humans?
Yeah. And
if you go into Google, you'll probably find Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
So number 1 is our physiological needs, our air, water, food, etc.
Correct.
Number 2 is our need for safety.
Mm-hmm.
So by that, I mean, we've got a roof over our head, we've got money, and we're safe from danger. Number 3 is the one that will resonate with everybody. We have a need for love and belonging. Nobody really wants to be on our own. We all want to love and to give love. Number 4 is about our self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we have respect for ourselves and respect for others? What's our status in life? We want that recognition, significance, if you like.
Yeah.
And then the last one is where it's almost philosophical. It's like, we call it self-actualization. It's the desire to become the best person you can be. And this sounds quite, for some people that are not even looked into the world of self-development, people will go through life and life will just happen at them and they'll deal with it, which is why a lot of people end up in low emotional states, or they're depressed, or they're anxious. And for some people, unfortunately, they take their own life.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're Maslow's hierarchical needs. And most people live around 1 or 2,
Wow.
and maybe 3. And what I loved about what I experienced, and if anybody's been to a Tony Robbins event, and a lot of people over your side of the water, and everybody knows who Tony Robbins is, and a lot of people have heard of his 6 human needs, which for me is, and it's just a deep dive into these hierarchical needs that Maslow talks about. So number 1 is certainty. Like I said, we want to know that we've got a roof over our head. We want to know that we've got money coming in at the end of the month. We want to know we have a job. We want to know when we wake up in the morning that our partner's beside us or our kids are safe downstairs. Number 2 is kind of the reverse of that. It's uncertainty or variety. Now imagine if life, if you knew exactly what was going to happen every minute of every day of every month of every year, you would be bored.
Yeah.
So we have this need for variety or uncertainty, if you like. Number 3, I touched on earlier, significance. We want to feel important. We want to feel a sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
Number 4, connection and love. We want to feel connected. We want to belong. And whether that's your soccer team, or it's the young mums club, or it's the soccer mums, or whatever it is, you want to have that sense of belonging.
Okay.
And we all have this desire to love and to be loved. And then there are 2 other needs which take you into the self-actualization. That's growth and contribution.
Mm-hmm.
And contribution, I mean, I have clients that give hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to worthy causes. And that meets their need for contribution. But you can meet your need for contribution by going down to the local store and smiling at the cashier.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could make a difference that day.
Yeah.
You could have a conversation with a homeless guy, and I've done that several times. And that meets your need for contribution. So they're really the 6 needs. And the beautiful thing is we can meet these needs in positive or negative ways. And let me give you an example. I ride a motorcycle, right? If you've seen my social media, somewhere in there, you'll see my big motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can meet all of my human needs in there. I know every time I sit on my motorcycle, I am certain to have a good time. I'm also meeting my need for uncertainty or variety because I never know what's around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I ride in the mountains and I cross into Europe. And the thing is, you're on 2 wheels. You never know what's around the corner. And it's the same in life. If you
That
think
excitement,
about it, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Significance. I feel like a god when I'm on my motorcycle. And I have the fortune to ride a top of the range motorcycle. It costs a lot of money. So I feel important. I also get connection and love because, as you've seen from my social media, I love being in nature.
You love outdoors, yeah.
I love the great outdoors. So, and when I'm on my motorcycle, it's almost like I'm meditating with my eyes open because I'm just connected to myself, to the bike, and to nature. And then growth and contribution, just being out and being connected in nature makes me feel alive.
Yeah.
And when I'm alive, when I take this time out in nature, I can think, okay, what do I want to do next? What's the impact? How can I make a bigger impact with my clients and the wider audience next year? And I'm doing that. This year, I started another company with another coach in Scotland to support men in mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So that's now where a lot of my time and my energy is going to go. And I'm going to be meeting my need for growth and contribution there. So there's some examples. You can also meet them in negative ways. And I'll just give you some quick examples. So 11 years ago, I lived in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And I met all of these needs in negative ways because at that point, I'd just been divorced a second time. My health wasn't good and I was drinking too much.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had a few drinks, my need for certainty was met because I knew that, I'm going to have a few beers tonight. I'm going to have a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm.
The uncertainty was I never knew what I was going to do. Because they will get to that point where in the evening, when I had so many beers,
gets foggy. Yeah, the foggy
the,
goggles.
the remainder of the night got a bit foggy. I would feel important because when I had a few beers, I'm a Scottish guy. We like to celebrate. And I was the life and soul of the party, which wasn't really who I was. But when I had some beers, and of course that met my need for love and connection because everybody wanted to be around me and buy me beers, and we had a laugh. And it didn't really meet my need for growth and contribution, although that I knew that I was heading down a dark alley.
Yeah.
And in that state, and I talked last week about the emotions that you live in, I was in a low emotional state every day. So I was focused on all the things that were going to go wrong in my life. And guess what they did?
They went wrong because you
But now I live in a completely different place.
manifesting it. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you focus on, you feel. And when you start to focus on the things that are not happening for you, then you just get more of the same. So what I do with myself and with my clients is I help them to raise their emotional vibration every day. So you can choose when you get out of bed in the morning and put your feet on the ground, you can choose to be in a better emotional state, in a different emotional state. And that's what I talked about last week, choices. Every day you have a choice. Who do I be today? How am I going to show up? What emotions am I going to live in? What chances am I going to take today? What change am I going to see in my life, and what change am I going to help other people do?
Yeah.
So there's a little movement around the 6 human needs in a bit more detail as Tony described them.
Great. Well, you've been described as, yes, a highly skilled coach and mentor who really cares deeply about the transformation and you can create for them. Because this is Emma C. Just some great testimonials on the website. The privilege of working with you one-to-one in a group setting and your expertise shown throughout. She says, I value and truly enjoy my own growth journey, but sometimes we can't see our own blind spots like a coach can. David's calm but challenging approach allowed me to uncover some of the beliefs that were holding me back and understand them on a deeper level. It's been a transformational journey indeed. And Stephanie talks about how you helped tackle the challenges in her life and business, and you asked those difficult questions and helped her find the answers. Again, great listening abilities. And again, you make extra time for clients when they're in an urgent needs. There's great testimonials on here. Just want to point out the website again for everyone, davidgalison.com, davidgalison.com. And you could go to the website, you could start there. And do you offer an initial conversation? Can they book you through the website?
Yeah, if they go to my website, there's a book now page, and you've got 2 options. You can choose Let's Connect, which is the one I normally do. And all we do is we have a chat. We'll talk about your life, your business, and whether you feel I'm somebody that can support you, and whether, because the thing is, I don't work with just anybody.
Yeah.
It's like, I got to feel, I want people that I look up to and admire. Mm-hmm. Like my client this afternoon, 5 years ago, he was an Uber driver. We started working together after that. Now he's financially free, and he's creating software that's going to support people in mental health.
Wow.
And he's half my age. He inspires me.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to work with people that inspire me, that want to make a bigger impact in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I typically work with high-performing entrepreneurs or business owners.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And clearly, if they want to work with you to get started, you offer the one-on-one coaching or offer the group sessions, therapy. Now, what's the difference with the coaching? You do therapy as well. How would you describe that?
Well, I'm not a traditional therapist.
Uh,
In the days when I used to watch TV, I would watch Seinfeld and people, and you'd see the guy lying on the couch,
uh-huh.
and every week they'll talk about the same stuff. And in my experience, talking about the same stuff every week doesn't make it any better. You'll feel better for an hour. But what I do in my therapy is with my client is, if there's something in the past sometimes will stop you from moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably because it's not happening now, but you're carrying the pain of it, the memory,
burden of it. Yep.
And that's where I bring in my NLP, my hypnotherapy, or the energy work, and we help make peace with that.
Got it.
Because we experience things in life, Jill, and we give them a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
When something that happened, like when I was 16, my first boss told me that I would never make anything of my career or my life. He told me I would never be a manager. I was a manager at 18. 2 years later, but I carried that belief that I wasn't good enough or worthy enough until about 6 or 7 years ago.
Wow.
So things will happen and you will attach a meaning to it, and you'll attach emotions to it. And what happens is, in therapy, you can go back and talk about it, but all it does is bring it up again. And there's a great guy called Joe Dispenza who talks about this. And all we do is we rewire the memories and the emotions in our head. And then we live that pain again for days and days. So what I do with my clients is we go back and find out, okay, what was going on here? What was going on? And it's typically when you're in your first 7 years of life. I mean, I've been through this myself. It's like there was things that happened when I was 5, 6, or 7. I gave them a meaning that I wasn't good enough, that my brother was more important than me, which was completely not true.
Yeah.
But I carried that forward, and as a result, I was doing more in relationships than I needed to. I was doing more, so if I do more, then I'll get love.
Yeah.
Again, come back to the need for love and connection.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that happen in our past, and I've worked with some clients that have had really traumatic things happen. But if you carry that pain, you don't need to carry that pain for the rest of your life. So what I do is help them make peace with it, and then we move forward.
Yeah.
So it's not a traditional, it's a transformational therapy. Let's find out what's really stopping you getting what you want in life or who you want to be in life, and let's take the weeds out. Let's just not do the surface stuff, because we can do the surface stuff if you want.
True.
But my work with my clients is deep. We go into the weeds. So it's like the grass is always greener where you water it. And a lot of people in life, they look to the green on the other side of the street. Oh, when I find this new love, I'll be happy. When I get this new job, or when I have this money. And the thing is, if you just pour water on what's in front of you now, things can begin to grow, because in doing that, you'll discover what's happening now. Okay, what is really stopping me? And I will just, what I do is I just like peel the layers of the onion away. We'll get to what's going on, and then we'll make peace with it. I won't make peace with it, they will. And I'll use whatever, and again, it's an intuitive process.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's an energy, sometimes it's hypnotherapy, sometimes it's NLP. Sometimes I just ask a question and they get the answer, and they have the release they need.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. My goodness, we still have 5 minutes left in the show. David Allison joining us here. What else do you want to share with us today? I don't want to repeat anything that you don't want to talk about, but I just wanted, can I ask a question quick? I won't take up too much
Sure,
time.
I'd love you to ask a question.
As far as coaching someone, is there like a story that you want to share, how you've helped transform someone's life? And what was it in regards to? What did they need the change for? Was it work? Was it personal growth? Was it relationship? What is there a story or two that you want to share
Yeah,
that
so
was
I just shared one briefly a couple of minutes ago. The young guy that was an Uber
the
driver.
yes.
Yeah,
So is
and
that your favorite?
now he's financially free. He's got a
Uh-huh.
net worth of millions of dollars, and he's creating some magic. I have another client in the UK. He came to me, and a man in his 50s from London, and he had been clinically depressed for 30 years. His doctor, I remember the first session, and he said, I've got clinical depression for 30 years.
Ah.
So we worked together for about a year. By the end of that year, he wasn't clinically depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I called him out on his depression. Now, his doctor had diagnosed him with clinical depression. He
Ah.
believed it. And I said, I don't believe that this is true, Jim.
Ah.
And he went away and researched it, and it turned out he didn't have depression. He had symptoms of sleep apnea.
Wow.
So that guy
Never
now
knew.
is off all his medication. He runs marathons, and he's trained as a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner and a coach.
So you inspired him, clearly.
And he's now, I had a call with him 2 days ago.
Right.
He's turned his whole life around. He was clinically depressed. He was running a little t-shirt business, and now he's got confidence like he's never had. And he's just starting his own coaching business and hypnotherapy and NLP.
Amazing.
And he's done hours and hours of training. So, and that's what I love. That comes back to my need for contribution.
Yeah, you're the light in your eye.
And I could tell you stories like that for hours. But they're just two examples that spring to the top of my head, and they make my need for contribution. When I see somebody go from here to here, Uber driver to millionaire, clinically depressed to starting his own business, it just lights me up like a Christmas tree.
I could tell for sure. I could see it. I could feel it in your energy, your voice. There, again, for those of you live on the podcast, we're also live on the Zoomcast. So not sure if you get to see him, but you could see the energy and the light in his eyes with helping people, and clearly what you do. It's great that you found your passion, and clearly you are very successful at it. And people can reach out to you to work with you. Could you share how that process works? And I know how long do you need to work with a coach? Is it different for everyone, or do you really believe it takes a certain amount of time to change certain patterns, behaviors to be who, that person?
Yeah, it's a unique process, I think. I mean, typically I work with most people I work with for 6 or 12 months. Some people I work with for 3. Some people, and I've got a client after this call, and we meet every week.
Yeah.
I've got other clients I meet every 2 weeks. So sometimes, like my client now, he says, I want 3 months super intensive. So we do an hour a week every week. And what I do is I have a methodology I tend to take most clients through, which I've shared a little bit about. We look at your beliefs, we look at your emotions, we look at your habits, we look at how creating your future, and we look at, if you like, the power of why do we do things, and how we can apply that to getting what you want in life. So that's kind of the methodology I use. But again, there are no 2 clients the same. So when somebody comes to work with me, it's about understanding what are their needs in their life and their business, and how can I best support them. And some clients, it's 3 months. I've had clients work with me for 2 or 3 years now, because my coaching has moved from just pure coaching to being a guide and a thinking partner. Mm-hmm. So, and again, it's a real hybrid of infusion of coaching, hypnotherapy, spirituality. It's whatever is needed for that client.
Beautiful. And let's remind everyone how we can reach you directly to get started.
My website is davidgallison.com. My Instagram is David Allison Coaching. I have a Facebook page, David Allison Coaching, and you will also get me on TikTok under Claymore Mental Health Support, which is my other company. And Facebook, I'm David Allison. I'm the guy with the mountain behind me.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful Scotland. It's green. You won't miss
Thank you so much, David Allison. We appreciate you being here for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you again. And if we don't meet again this way, I'll see you on social media. Awesome.
Okay.
Good to see you guys.
Thanks, Jim.
Follow him, David G. Allison. Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.